Hello, hello. Welcome to today's session on our Black History Month panel, Navigating the Software Engineering Industry. Super excited for today. My name is John Canella, and as you are joining us today, please put in the chat, let me know where you are joining us from. Would love to see where our audience is currently at. All right, so we have Oakland in the house. I'm checking in from New Jersey. Let me know who else is where our audience is from. Let me know where you're checking in from. We have Canada, we have Seattle, Los Angeles. We have a panelist in Boston. What's up, Paris? We have LA, the ATL. Hey, I love it. Cool. I'm gonna real quick launch a quick poll before we get started. If you'd like to join our Alco beta Slack community, feel free to answer the poll and we'll go ahead and give you that link. All right, so the event overview, I'm going to first give the welcome. I'm gonna introduce Alco, myself, and our panelists, and then we're gonna pretty much hop right into the software engineering industry conversation for about 45 minutes. And we wanna make sure that we leave some room in the end for any questions that come up. So if you'd like to ask questions, definitely use the Q&A feature right here on Zoom so that you can interact with our panelists today. So a little bit about Alco. Alco was founded in 2015 in San Jose. We specialize in career coaching and sharpening behavioral and situational interviewing skills. We've helped over 2,000 software engineers get jobs into big tech companies and also startups. We have classes that are based in the East Coast and also on Pacific time zones. So if you'd like to learn more about Alco, I'll go ahead and start this poll for you to join us at one of our info sessions. Please feel free to join or select a time that works best for your schedule. All right, and we're having a promotion, 10% off all upfront payments if you'd like to join Alco. All right, so without further ado, I'll introduce myself. My name is John Brian Canella. I work as a career coach here at Alco, where I help software engineers through the job search lifecycle by helping them sharpen their behavioral and situational interviewing skills. I do this through one-on-one coaching and facilitation of classes during our 4-week career accelerator program. And at Alco, what we do is we empower job-seeking software engineers to earn the job of their dreams and to ultimately create their own career success. It's what makes me super excited to be here. So thank you so much for joining. I graduated from the New Jersey Institute of Technology with a degree in IT network security and a minor in business. I also work as an incident response consultant at Mandiant, focusing on computer forensics and incident response. Prior to Mandiant, I was working at Cisco Systems as an IT engineer in San Jose, California. Without further ado, I will be introducing my panelists.
So hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Christine. I am a UI engineer at LinkedIn on the contracts and billing team. I have 6 years of experience helping companies make money and save money using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. But before all that, I used to be in the hospitality industry. So I'm really excited to share with you all how I navigated the software engineering industry.
Yeah, Roderick?
Oh man, I didn't expect to go next. Yeah, I'm a software engineer by day. I work at NCR. You know, I put fingers to keyboards, somehow still have the job. So, you know, it's pretty cool. But outside of that, I also have my own podcast. So what we do is we focus on like minorities in the tech industry. Me and my partner Mehul, we just share like different experiences that we both have, unique experiences, whether it be failing my way through school, whether him being a homeless pizza boy and becoming a software engineer. Also, organizer for Render ATL. Yeah. Hopefully it happens this year. And wow, you guys got like all my old jobs on there here too. So yeah, I previously used to work for Home Depot too as well. I dealt with like some of their functionalities that they have in the stores that they're still using, and then also working at Georgia Tech Research Institute and a couple startups in between. But I don't want to take up all the time, so hey, I'm looking forward to sharing my story.
We have Jordy.
Hey everyone, so glad to be a part of this panel. So likewise with John, I also work as a technical coach here at Alco, but I mainly focus with the machine learning cohort. I also simultaneously work as a teacher at Girl Development. I'm actually teaching a Python class with them right now. So if you are interested in in joining the tech industry in any way, shape, or form, but you don't have that much experience, I really do recommend both programs, Girl Development and Outco as well. With some of my past experience, I've worked as a computer vision engineer with the disaster management group. I've worked as a data scientist with IC Changed in the past. I am mostly in the machine learning AI space for the most part, so I have a little bit of a different background than from the other people on here who is mostly in software engineering. So I hope I could provide some insight in that portion of tech.
Great. We have Justin here. He actually had an emergency and won't be attending, but he is a software engineer at MailChimp, founder and CEO at Rebuild Black Business, founder and CEO at Render Atlanta, and software engineer at Mississippi State University. And we have Paris.
Hey y'all, let me move this chat. I can't see anything. All right. Hi, so I'm Paris. I'm founder and CEO of Black Tech Pipeline. I'm creator of the hashtag movement and community Black Tech Twitter. I went from being a wax specialist to a developer to now a founder. I don't do as much programming anymore. But as soon as I graduated from Resilient Coders, which is this little skull logo at the bottom of my little page here, that's when I went off and became a developer for a few years. And then Black Tech Twitter happened and took off. And then I created Black Tech Pipeline, and this is now my full-time job. So what I do is I help Black technologists get jobs at different companies, but I also help those companies retain those hires by doing check-ins with them to make sure that they're having good experiences. And I hold employers accountable to make sure they're following through with what they say they're doing DEI-wise.
Love it. So that is our panel. I'm super excited for everybody who's here. I'll stop sharing my screen right now. We'll dive into questions. I also posted in the chat the Slack community. So for those who answer the poll, feel free to join our Slack community right there. All right. So without further ado, first question. Would love to know how you got into the software engineering industry. If you could share a little bit about your journey into becoming an engineer. If anybody would like to take that.
I can go first. So I have my bachelor's in fine arts, and I was working in the hospitality industry after I graduated college. I wasn't really thinking about software engineering, but I knew I wanted to make a career switch. And so I started applying for my MFA in fine arts, but it also had a technology bent to it. And as I was doing that program and sort of getting into graphic design, I decided I wanted to learn more about HTML and CSS because I thought it'd be really cool if I could take some of the designs that I was creating and put it on the internet so I could have a wider reach. And as I'm learning more about as essentially front-end development, a friend reached out to me and said, hey, there's this boot camp in New York, in Brooklyn. It's free. I think you'd be a great fit. And so I did the boot camp essentially. I was focused on being a full stack developer, but very quickly I learned I really liked the front end. It combined my interest in art and sort of customer service hospitality. And so the boot camp was about 5 months, and then I got my first job at Intel as a front-end engineer. So that was sort of my experience there.
Nice. Uh, does anybody else want to share a little bit about their experience and how they were able to land their first job as an engineer?
Okay, I'll go. So I went to a boot camp called Resilient Coders. I learned about resilient coders when I was in school, finishing my associate's degree, and I was intending on getting my bachelor's, but then I found out about coding and that it existed. And I learned that this boot camp called Resilient Coders, who teaches people of color from underserved communities to code for free. When I learned about that program, I got into it. So I quit my full-time job. I didn't pursue my bachelor's. I just graduated with my associates, and they taught me HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, so front-end web development. And my intention for getting into coding was strictly financial at first. But then I learned like, okay, wow, coding actually allows you to be super creative and bring ideas to life through a computer, obviously. I just thought that was really cool. And I kept on with it. And after Resilient Coders, I got an internship at an advertising agency in the tech department. And it was a internship I tried to get into prior to getting into coding, but they didn't take me in. But once I had the skill of coding, they're like, yeah, we want you. So I got into that. And from there, when I had their name on my resume, I was able to like really progress and work for a bunch of cool companies.
That's great. Yeah, we actually have a question here from the audience. It says, as a person of color, what did you find the most challenging aspect of landing your first gig?
Is that for anybody?
Yeah, for anybody, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
go ahead.
Okay, all right. So coming from me, I have a different experience because like I grew up on the east side of Atlanta, so like everything was predominantly Black. So getting into that workspace of just interacting with like, other people just was a shocker for me in the beginning. It was kind of difficult because it's like I had to learn how to code switch in a way to where I can communicate certain languages to my friends versus coming to the office. And then, I mean, let's be honest, being surrounded by a bunch of white dudes is just a total culture shock. So I've learned to adjust. I've learned that confidence is key to anything in any aspect in life. And as long as you know your shit, I mean, that's what really matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely feel with the whole code switching. I feel like the way that me speaking at work sometimes it can be different than when I'm speaking to people in general outside of work. So one thing I learned is to always, try to be ourselves everywhere we go, right? So that we can feel good in the spaces that we're in. So what would you say would be for anyone who hasn't answered yet, what would be your motivations for becoming a software engineer? Or why choose that career path versus the other paths that are available out there?
Well, I would say we live in a digitally driven era, and like I feel like it's come to a point where if you don't have technical skill, you might be left behind. So it's really critical that you do learn something technical. And I don't know, I think there's just more job opportunity financially, it can make you financially stable. It allows you to network with different industries. And honestly, every company uses tech. Like there isn't a company out there thriving without having some sort of website or some sort of like, I don't know, internet personality. I don't know, something like that. It's just important that they do get on the internet. Therefore, they are hiring people with those technical skills. So you can kind of work anywhere, honestly. Like if I had known that I could work for a beauty brand, but be a software engineer, I would have done that full time. I learned that later on, but I think people should really, know that you can take your passion. So if you have a passion for making videos, if you have a passion for music, if you have a passion for beauty, whatever, you can take your technical skills into those industries and thrive, so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. What would you say is the biggest challenge in the journey of becoming a software engineer, especially for those, let's say, if you didn't always know that that's something that you wanted, or you're thinking about doing a career switch? What would you recommend to somebody who is interested now that they are aware that this is a career path that they could pursue?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is if you think you might be interested in breaking into the industry, I would strongly suggest like doing a free course, or not even a free course, a very, like, for example, Udemy. They have lots of different courses on web development, if that's something that you're interested in, or backend, or starting a new language. Go through a course that's free or very cheap and see what your experience is like. You know, when you are stuck with a problem, do you give up, or do you try to keep working on trying to find a solution? If you, after completing the course, and I strongly suggest you do everything that is instructed in the video, after you've completed the course, if you enjoyed that experience, I think you should very much like really pursue becoming an engineer. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's exciting. There's lots of financial benefits, but I feel like if you're going to stay here long term, there's work that you have to do in terms of always be learning, always be pushing yourself, challenge yourself to work on different projects, different languages. And if you want to be successful, it takes some persistence. And if you can complete a course from start to finish, especially without someone saying, hey, did you do your homework? Did you finish that course? If you can do that, I think you're totally cut out for the industry.
Nice. Yeah, and being able to uh, be persistent in pursuing those courses too is super important. Like when you don't have anybody that is telling you what to do and when to do it, having that structure. Jordy, you mentioned that you have experience with being a technical coach. So what do you find are the challenges that people who need coaching, like technical coaching, what are the challenges that they face, or what do you think are maybe some tips that they could do to overcome any challenges to solving technical problems?
Yeah, so it really is a case by case basis just because everyone comes from different backgrounds. Like some people, they really are good technically, but they're sort of bad at the communication part, and that's why they're having such a hard time of trying to transition into another job. I would say for the most part, honestly, I have to speak from the machine learning side because that's where I have like a lot of my coaching experience in. But speaking from the machine learning side, it's not as straightforward as it is with software engineering. For the most part, especially for the interview prep process, it's pretty standardized no matter like which part of software engineering you're targeting, like front end, back end, even like mobile development. You know what to expect for the most part, like data structures and algorithms, system design, so on and so forth. Whereas with machine learning, like with the companies that a lot of people are targeting, you know, it like the titles itself can be pretty confusing as well. So like the title will say data analytics, but it'll be like a machine learning position, or like the title will say data scientist and it'll be a data analytics position. So what I find with like the people I've coached and mentored is that no matter where they were in their background, whether like, you know, if they were like a complete beginner or they have like, you know, a master's or a PhD in something in somewhere like from a STEM background, they just have like a hard time trying to weed out like what they absolutely need to prepare for. So you know, I do believe like with the software engineering side, everything is a lot more straightforward, which I kind of envy a little bit. You know, everything is pretty standardized, everything is straightforward. Whereas machine learning, we're still trying to like feel it out, like what is the exact regimented, you know, type of work that people will have to do in order to get their machine learning or AI engineer. Again, like the titles are like all over the place still. But yeah, their ideal machine learning job. I will say though, because I'm also a fundamentals coach with Alco as well, so I do interview people who are trying to get into the program as well, is that I do find that, you know, like women, people of color compared to men, like white men, they tend to downplay their skill set a lot. And I think it really does affect their confidence in terms of like what, like thinking about like, you know, if like applying to Alco is like even worthy of their skill set. So no matter like their experience, no matter if they're coming from a boot camp or a CS grad, I do find that, especially with women of color, you know, they do have like this sort of like downplaying of their skills. So that's what I've noticed as a mental check coach as well. So like dealing with your own confidence issues, and then dealing with all the external biases that exist in tech in general, it can be pretty hard. And I know I'm kind of going off topic, but I cannot stress enough. I wish I had done this at the very beginning of my career, but please seek out mentors. Like, please seek out mentors if you're a person of, you know, especially if you're Black, like having like a system, like a group of people, a community behind you is so important to your development. Like we don't think that, you know, like maybe like white men or Asian men don't have a community behind it, but they do. It's just like it's a lot more regimented, you know. Whereas, you know, with us, like we have to start from scratch. So luckily there are so many burgeoning groups that are coming out and that already exist, like Black Girls Code, and then there's Algorithmic Justice League, which is run by Nigerian American women. So there's all of these like groups that are coming out. Oh, even Girl Develop It, whom I'm working with as well. It's just so important to have a community of people behind you to look out for you, to help you get that dream job, because you know, as we know, like no matter where you work, like in tech or you know, like finance or whatever, you know, it's about who you know, who's going to be that next person to get you like, you know, landed on your 2 feet and whatnot. So please reach out to people. Like do not hesitate to reach out to people. You'll be surprised to who you meet and who will like open that door for you. Yeah. And it just helps out so much with like confidence issues, technical issues as well. Just like having that community of people to support you.
Yeah, I love the points that you mentioned. You touched on mentorship, confidence, community. With regards to confidence, I think it plays a huge part in even applying to the role. Do we feel like we have the right skills to even apply? So what do you say to that person who's maybe on the fence on whether or not they should apply to the role? Maybe they look at the job description and they see that they don't meet every single bullet point. Rhetoric, what would you say to that person?
I would say apply
Just
anyway because
yeah, apply anyway. It's like
I would say apply anyway.
literally all they could do is just say no. Like that's it. Like
The
that's
other worst thing that
it.
can happen is you get
know?
the no reply email. That's pretty much
Yeah.
it. At least you
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point there. And then speaking on community, so important, but even now more than ever, since with social distancing and not being able to go to events, being active on social media is, one could argue, is super important now more than ever. So can anybody here touch on how important it is to be active on social media as software engineers, whether it be writing articles, posting content, commenting on posts, projects, etc.? Who could touch on that? Or is it something that you guys do? Are you guys active on social media as software engineers?
That's a good question. I feel like I'm trying to be more active. This whole COVID situation and I guess seeing so many family and friends affected in terms of them being unemployed because the industry that you thought would be here forever, like hospitality, for example, you just can't do it right now. And so I have been trying to, start groups to help, like, for example, I'm learning Java for my job, and I posted that on my social media so that if anyone wants to learn with me, they can, join me in this journey. But yeah, I definitely want to try and be more active just so I can get more people to become more excited about becoming a software engineer.
Nice. Paris, you mentioned that you were super active on Twitter. Can you touch a little bit about how important it is to be active on Twitter, LinkedIn, etc.?
Yeah. Like there's just so many opportunities that you get out of social media. Like it's a full-time job in itself. But it's fun. I think it's fun being able to just kind of be yourself, and you build a network that way, and you meet people who are kind of like-minded as well, and even different from you, but it's good. You're growing a network. Like me personally, the best job I ever had as a software engineer, I got that off of Twitter. The CEO tweeted that he was hiring for a role. I applied and I DM'd him and I was like, hey, just so you know, I applied and I got the job. Like, I'm not saying I got the job because of that, but I learned about that opportunity. I was able to interact with the person hiring for the role, that he got to know me. And I ended up getting that job. And it was the best job I ever had since entering this industry. And then of course there's like having Black Tech Twitter. I didn't know that there were so many Black technologists in tech until I got on Twitter. I really did think I was like one of the very few. But that's the like beauty of social media, is that it exposes you to so many different people from different backgrounds, different communities. And you just build relationships that way. And people have built businesses together because they met off of social media. And I think also people who are interested in like building a following or becoming some sort of community leader, when you're learning something, like Christine, you're learning Java, you said, like even writing, what is it, like Medium articles or something on what you learned, you know, that week, that's helping. You don't know who you're helping, but you're helping someone, and people will follow you because of that. They want to follow your journey. They're on their own journey as well. And it's nice because it feels like you're supporting each other. You have each other's back. You resonate with one another. So social media is like incredibly important. And I do hope people are very active on there.
I'm going to take that advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how you touched on how you use Twitter and that led to a job opportunity. People probably don't even think that that's even possible. Probably think it's only via LinkedIn or just applying on a job portal. So guys, if whoever's listening to this, definitely utilize Twitter and all social media platforms. One thing that we touch on a lot at Alco is reverse recruiting and networking. So with regards to reverse recruiting, it's the act of being your own recruiter. Instead of waiting for a recruiter to reach out to you, you're reaching out to potential recruiters, potential software engineers. So has anybody here ever reached out to somebody that they don't know on social media instead of just applying to the job? And has that ever has a connection that you've made on social media ever led to an interview? Or how can you let somebody know that that's possible? Like how would you describe that experience?
For me, I would definitely say LinkedIn. I got my job at NCR of LinkedIn, just randomly sending a message over to a recruiter. That's my go-to in terms of social media, because like pretty much recruiters are going to flood LinkedIn no matter what. They're kind of like vultures on there. So it's best to use that to your advantage.
Yeah. Let's see, we actually have a question here in the chat. Can anyone speak on their most cherished project, something that you were able to take from research, dev, deployment, production?
I mean, I have a project that comes to mind. It was my second job. I was at a startup called Crew. And I feel like the need to like share what Crew is about. Crew is focused on team communication and work scheduling for hourly workers. This was maybe the first 6 to 9 months at the company, and they were looking to move away from Google Analytics and mixed panel so they could save some money. And so I was responsible for building an internal tool that would be used by other web engineers. It took about 2 weeks to build, and it's still, the company is still using it today. And so to me, it was very exciting. I mean, it was very scary when they first brought up the project, because I was like, I'm about to build something that the company is going to start using so that they can move away from professionals like Google and mixed panel. Are you sure you want to do this? But I think just working with the CTO, we were able to, find something that works for what he was looking for to do or accomplish. They're still using it, and I got to save the company like some $400,000-$500,000 that they were paying for this service a year. So I was very excited about that.
Amazing. Yeah, and even the way that you delivered that, it follows the whole like arms specializing on action results and metrics. So I'm sure you got a really nice bullet point on your resume on that.
Oh, totally.
Love it. I love it.
That's like my, I recently just finished the interview process. So that's like the go-to question I always use. I'm always ready to share that project.
Yeah. Speaking about questions, what would you say is a question that you feel like people who are going into the software engineering career, they should maybe like prep for if they're going into an interview? What would you say is something that you need to make sure that you know how to articulate?
That's a good question. It almost depends. I mean, as a front-end engineer, you really should know your JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. I've had experiences where on the phone screen, and sometimes even when you're just talking to the recruiter, they'll ask you very specific questions about those things. And I mean, when you're working, you're not exactly prepared to, you know those things, but you don't know how to answer it when you're asked for it. One thing that I actually started doing when I was interviewing, I created flashcards of like, this is how the internet works. This is, JavaScript, CSS, and HTML, and certain questions that I would be expected to know as a front engineer. I actually started writing them down so that I can, whenever I was going to have a phone screen, I would just quickly review them, because you just forget, it's not something that you pay attention to at your job, even though you are using it. So that would be my tip for a front-end engineer who's interviewing for front-end positions, is to just write down common questions, so that you can use those questions, you can use those answers as you're interviewing.
Love those tips there, especially being able to reread the answers to those questions given those index cards. So another question, let's say we have someone who's listening who maybe is transitioning to another job, or they've been out of work for some time. What tips do you have for engineers that have been out of work for some time or face challenges getting a job within software engineering? Maybe they've applied to a role and they just get auto rejection emails. What are ways to maybe break out of that cycle where we're only hearing no's?
I feel like this is where marketing, networking really comes into play. This is why I say like social media is so important, because you get to build relationships with people you normally wouldn't have access to. So that means the CEOs of big companies or whatever company, you can now work with their employees and ask them questions and build those relationships. And then when it comes time to applying to a role, you can ask for a referral. You don't know the ways that people can really help you. And I just think networking is really key. And so that's one way of doing it.
Networking. Do we have anything else?
I was going to add, like, let's say you are a front engineer, you're looking to break into as a web engineer, I would start working on projects. So React is really big right now. In addition to learning vanilla JavaScript, you'd probably work on a React project, put it on GitHub, put it on your LinkedIn, because those recruiters will be looking for those projects. When they're asking you, oh, what have you been up to these past 6 months? You want to be able to talk about, well, I built this for X, Y, and Z reason. You can make it up. But at least you have proof that you have been working on it. You do have experience in the field. Maybe you might be a little green, but still, you can sell yourself and say, I can do the job despite, having a month of experience or whatever.
Yeah, I love that. We were mentioning how we do multiple different things. So how do we here juggle doing our day job as working as either a software engineer and also doing all these other jobs or all these other hats that we wear? Can anybody touch on time management while really focusing on upping our skills within software engineering industry?
Hey, John. So I actually just want to circle back to the last question, because I just want to plug there are return to work programs that do exist, especially with IBM. IBM has this like return to work program, it is, I believe it is for a certain age group. Like, I think it's like from 35 or above, but I'm not entirely sure. But make sure to look out for like return to work programs, because they're actually becoming a lot more popular. I believe like some of them, they kind of like have like some type of apprenticeship within the program, and they pretty much transition you into a full-time role. So I would just recommend just Google searching. I do believe IBM is like the most popular one, but I'm sure other companies are trying to build those programs out too.
Got it. Appreciate you sharing that, Jordy. So with regards to upping those skills while also trying to do all the tasks that we have for ourselves in day to day, like how do we make sure that we get on top of all the things that a day or a job requires of us to do? Like how is it balancing all that work?
I mean, like balancing work and like a side project?
Yeah, either working, yeah, if you have a side project while doing your full-time thing, or
Yeah.
just trying to balance like upping skills while also trying to stay mentally sane, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I did this. So so I had a side project that I was extremely passionate about when I got like I think I was like just graduated boot camp, then I was in the internship, then I got my first job. Through all of that, I had a side project that I swore was going to make me a billionaire. I was building this React Native app, and I just knew this was it for me. Clearly it wasn't, but I was so passionate about it. And when I went to work, I was like, okay, what am I going to learn here that I can take back home and implement in my project? Like that was my mind frame. And I don't know, I feel like if you really find something, a problem you really, really want to solve, you know, build it. And you need to be like really passionate about it, and you want to be able to put in that time. Like I tell you, I was working 9 to 5, and when I was getting home, I was excited to just work. So I feel like if you find something like that, that's really going to motivate you. And then sometimes like that outweighs your passion for work, which is fine. But I think like the way you should think about it is, okay, what I'm going to up my skill at work. I'm going to learn things at work that I'll be able to take back home, and continue building my project and make it even better, you know? So I think that's, yeah, for me.
Love how you're able to balance that as well. That's cool. Roderick, you mentioned how you're a software engineer and also the co-founder of Peachtree Devs. Can you talk about how you're able to be a co-founder while also working as a software engineer?
I mean, to piggyback off what Paris says, it's like you take things from different segments. So you learn skills from work, but my biggest thing is, I mean, I probably just suffer like lack of sleep. So whether it's 4 to 6 hours of sleep, I've learned to accept it, because like whether it being we're getting ready to do a podcast episode and there's a ton of research there. I'm also working on a sports betting app too that I need to work on after this panel. Yeah, it's just like she said, it's just finding that passion. Once you find that passion, you realize like, yeah, I would get more excited when work is over. When my last email, my last Slack message is sent, I close that laptop, I'll open up my another laptop. So it's just, I don't know, it's just finding that passion. And when you find that passion is not necessarily work anymore, it's just like you're doing something cool, basically, in your own eyes. So whether it being like us doing the podcast stuff, I mean, it's cool for us. At the same time, we just like to talk trash and then showcase like you could be a cool ass software engineer too as well. So I don't look at it per se as a lot of work and a ton of effort. I look at it as just a passion I look forward to working on.
Awesome. If you could share maybe a piece of advice, if everyone here could touch on a piece of advice to yourself if you could give a piece of advice to yourself when you first started, what would you have wished you had known regarding either software engineering or just getting into tech? Is there anything that you maybe would have changed, or something that you think would have propelled you forward faster, something that could help anyone right now who's trying to get into the industry?
Oh.
Because I just talked, you go.
I was going to say, I feel like my motto is slow and steady wins the race. And then there's always be coding. I think it's really important to, like, for example, I'm trying to learn Java. I wouldn't say it's my passion project by any means, but I told myself I'm going to put 1 hour every day, Sunday through Thursday. I'll take Friday and Saturday off, to just do this and learn this. And so I think you can propel yourself really far in software engineering if you're willing to just commit, do the work consistently, a little bit at a time. You can go really far.
Nice. Paris?
For me, I wish that I thought about all of the other fields within the industry that I could have entered. Like software engineering is really cool, but tech is not limited to programming. There are so many other things that you can do. And I wish I knew like UX design, because at that time when I was learning to code, I thought all I'm doing is becoming a front-end developer. I didn't know there were other things I could learn. So I'm really interested in design. I could have took that into like packaging design and working for like a beauty company or something like that. So just really researching the different ways you can enter tech, because, you know, a technologist, again, it's just not limited to programming. There's so many other things that you could do.
That's deep. Jordy or Rhetoric?
Oh.
If you give yourself if you give yourself a piece of advice when you're when you first started, what would you have wished you would have known?
Yeah, I briefly mentioned it in the first question I answered, but basically reaching out to people in general, like especially as a Black woman, like it's so important to just have a network of people behind you. Like it makes me wish that, a lot of schools, not just like, because I come from a computer science background, but like, boot camps, universities, they would have like, like I wish there were like a pipeline or at least like a community already inbuilt into like the boot camp or a computer science degree, or like other women of color, Black women, Black men are able to actually link up together and actually build, like start to network, get to know each other, so that way, like once you transition out of schooling, whether it's from like a boot camp or a traditional degree, like you have those skills down pat already. So it's not much of a harsh adjustment into the real world, or at least into like another career where like the lingo, exactly what you want to do, the industry you want to break in, all those things beforehand, and like you just have like a solid network behind you. I actually did join a woman of engineering group back in my undergrad, but I do regret that I didn't like utilize it properly as much as I should. So really, like if you find like a network of people who have the same common goals as you and come from the same background as you, like use it immediately, get to know those people, because you will never know, like those people will have your back probably throughout your entire career. You just never know. So yeah, mentorship, community for sure.
Love that. Yeah, we have Lorenzo here saying that that's really helpful. Thank you, Jordy. Thanks, Lorenzo. Yeah, so Rhetoric, is there anything that you would tell yourself?
To piggyback off the community thing, taking advantage of social media. Prior to, I didn't really care for social media, after college and stuff like that. So I didn't see any other like engineers that looked like me, or didn't know that there was a Black tech Twitter out there at all. So it was just like, I don't know. It was just, I literally just like taking social media seriously as of like 2 years ago. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would give that advice to myself probably like 6-7 years ago to take advantage of it.
Nice. Yeah, it seems to be a common theme to be active on social media, put ourselves out there. I also find that companies are actively doing their homework on us anyway when we apply to positions. So the more content that we post, that we choose to post, right? We're giving them something to look at that we posted on purpose that has value. So as far as organizations that our community can attend, what organizations would you say that is can help people level up to the next level, or just be there as a source to network, if something that they could join either today or tomorrow?
Oh, well, this is an organization that they can join when they are full-time software engineer, but it's called DevColor. It's a nonprofit organization for Black engineers in tech. You just have to be, you just have to have a job as a full-time job as a software engineer. It's been super helpful because they put everyone in squads. And so you have people coming in from various backgrounds and experiences, whether they are engineering managers, tech leads, just starting off their first job as a software engineer, but everyone comes together to give advice professionally and personally on how you could ask for a raise, how you can get a promotion, how you can negotiate your offers, what you should be doing to prepare for interviews, whether that's lead coding or anything else that would be beneficial. So yeah, I have been with the organization, I would say, since moving out to California from New York. So it's been about 6 years. I love it. And it's been amazing. And they're not just in California, they're also in New York, in Atlanta, and there might be in Seattle.
Nice. Yeah, see Richie, he just posted the link to devcolor.org.
Nice.
So for the audience here, feel free to bookmark that and check it out. Are there any other organizations that any of you guys are part of? I know National Society of Black Engineers is a big organization. They have regional chapters and national. They're also on the national level, and they have career fairs on the regional and national level where top tech companies they go to attend and recruit top talent there. So if you're not involved with the National Society of Black Engineers, definitely check them out. Cool. If you guys have any questions, feel free to utilize the Q&A that we have here, and we will be sure to answer them. All right. Let's see. What would you say would differentiate someone who is an okay software engineer versus someone who is successful? Or what is it that defines a successful software engineer? Do you have to know every single coding language? Like how would you define a software engineer who's successful and just killing it?
For me, I'll probably say you have to be a great problem solver, because that's, at the end of the day, that's all software and code is. Technology in general is just problem solving, and also being able to communicate. So you could be the smartest developer in the room. If I have a conversation with you, you don't know how to communicate whatsoever, you don't really benefit the team in a way. You're just, just a smart guy. So to me, communication is the biggest thing that separates like a regular engineer and a great engineer. Just teaching.
Yeah.
And also, you don't have to know a whole bunch of languages. Like, you can be really good at one thing instead of being like mediocre at a bunch of things, because you can't learn everything. It's just not realistic.
Right.
So don't feel that pressure. Like, you can get extremely good at JavaScript and land that job, and you're still twice as valuable,
Yeah.
I also want to add that, or at least like, I think, sometimes it's not enough to just solve the problem and get the code to work. Like, you also want to think about how easy would it be for my coworkers to jump in and extend or add on to what I've already written? How is this code going to perform with, X and Y, XYZ constraints to, like, you almost want to think bigger picture. Try not to solve just for like the here and now, and think about 3 months from now, or even a month from now. I mean, a lot of things can change. You don't want to just be like writing code that just works, because it's almost like a hacker mentality. But especially when you start working at, even small and large companies, they're always thinking about scale and just making sure that the code can expand, can continue to grow.
Yeah, that's a great point there. To have code continue to grow and be used by others. I see a question here actually. We have Trish. How can I use 11 plus years in the mortgage industry to my advantage, transitioning into a tech role? I think that's interesting.
Oh, I was just like typing to her.
Nice.
I mean, the one thing I was gonna say is that like, regardless of what industry you're coming from, over an 11 plus year span, you gain some very essential skills. I don't know what those skills are though, because I don't know a damn thing about the mortgage industry, but I know those skills are gonna be relevant in a tech role. I don't know which one because I don't know what those skills consist of. But again, like it's still very possible for you to transition from the mortgage industry into tech with your skills.
Yeah. And also,
yeah, I could oh, sorry, Christine, where are you going?
I was just gonna say, maybe that person can become a PM. I imagine maybe you're interacting with different kinds of people, having to like sell people on different ideas. And I think that's one role as a PM where you're interacting with people.
PM meaning?
A product manager.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's one role that's like using data to make decisions and sell different people, like the designers, the engineers, the stakeholders, about why we should develop this particular feature. Or you can get into tech too. I mean, it's a possibility.
Yeah. And also go ahead. Go ahead, Jordy.
Sorry. I was just going to plug in, like, just from my experience as a fundamentals coach for the Alco program, I've interviewed so many people from non-traditional backgrounds, people coming from education, music, finance, like spanning like all of those, like all those non-traditional tech background industries. And you'll be so surprised to see like how many of those people are able to adapt really well into a technical role. And what I do find is that with people who come from non-traditional backgrounds is that they have like very great communication skills compared to like some programmers in the industry. So like Christine said, you could definitely transition into a project manager role. Just because you work in the tech industry does not mean that you have to go down the programming route as well. Like there are so many other roles that you can actually get into outside of an actual programming role. So if you don't find that programming is suited for you, that's completely fine. There's this channel that I do want to plug. Her name is The Come Up. I forgot her name. She's a Nigerian American woman though. And she has like a recent video on non-technical roles in the tech industry, and I would really recommend you to watch that. After I stop speaking, I'll quickly find the link. I will post it there for everyone to look at, because I think people think that if you break into the tech industry, that means that you have to go down the programmer route. Also, because you've worked as a mortgage broker, I guess, I don't know the proper titling. Maybe even like data analytics might be a good route, like business intelligence, those type of routes as well. It's still within the tech industry, but it's more on like the statistics sides of things rather than like the software engineering side of things. So really, like, the whole world is your oyster when it comes to tech. You really don't have to break into a programming role if you don't want to.
Yeah, those are all great points, and appreciate everybody's input on there. Going back to like communication, and you don't have to actually be somebody who codes every single day to be in the tech industry. So definitely wanted to demystify that part. Great question. Thank you. Let's see. We have another question. Are any of you members of the Black Code Collective or have heard of the Black Code Collective?
It sounds cool though.
It sounds cool though, yeah. Nice. Let's see. With regards to community, it's important to have a community that's behind us, that's helping us along the way. I always reflect on how we could strive to be that friend for others who mentions that person's room in a room full of opportunities, because we definitely need that. So how can we be that community for others when, or what are ways that we can uh, be examples? Like how do you feel on how we could be that person for other people?
So how to be like supportive?
Yeah, or how can you describe of a time where somebody did that for you, where somebody was that person who was your sponsor and said, no, definitely this person is somebody that needs the opportunity or is deserving of the opportunity?
I mean, like, I think the way you can help someone sort of in a position where they need that support and they need that community. Again, I think it's really important to be on social media. What I see a lot on social media are people willing to be vulnerable, especially like the leaders of the tech industry, the influencers. They're vulnerable, so they let you know when they had a failure. They let you know when they had successes. They let you know when their code is broken and they can't figure it out, and when they've made these mistakes. And it's like they're revealing to you that they're a human just like you, and they mess up too. Like it's just normal, and that's just a part of life. And they're willing to have private conversations and help you and connect you with people who may be able to better guide you than they can. Like there's just so many opportunities, again, like on social media. You will find a very supportive community on there.
Nice. Let's see, we have a question. I have a little brother who wants to code when he grows up. what should he start to study?
So I did something with my nephew where we have a specific version of Minecraft that requires him to like write in some code in order to get like switches and things like that working. That's a good way to get him into the space. That way he's having fun and he sees his progression as he goes.
Nice.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
son. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, like just to kind of piggyback off of what Roderick said. There's also like doing like little Raspberry Pi or what's the other microcomputer? Oh, Arduino projects that kids could do with the I believe they have like their own languages part of that. Like I know Arduino does. I don't know about Raspberry Pi. But yeah, like I find like with kids, like doing like tying like certain things that exist in the real world and seeing that tangibility with their ability to program will really like spark like some type of passion for them. So anything that's like very like buildable, modular, but easily accessible, and I do believe like working with the Raspberry Pi and Arduino are very accessible. Like those are really great like projects to start off with, and they're fairly like inexpensive as well. Like I believe the Raspberry Pi kit costs like at most like $100, but there are like smaller kits that cost like about $30 and $40. So really two microcomputers to start off with for kids for sure.
Great. And I think we have time for one last question. The question we have here are there any free certifications that one can take in order to make it easier to get a front end job? Would you recommend any certifications for somebody? One thing I will say about certifications, it's not necessary, like don't feel like you need to 100% need a certification in order to apply or get a job that in order to feel qualified. But
Yeah,
what is your take on certs?
I've never seen any. I think about people who we've hired and none of them had any certifications. I mean, at this point, it doesn't even matter if you graduated with a bachelor's in computer science or anything like that. I mean, if doing the course gets you certified, I mean, don't worry about the certification, but take that experience that you got from the course and just start applying for jobs with it. People are just going to test you on what you know. And just because you have a certification doesn't mean they're just gonna be like, hey, here's the offer, you start tomorrow. Interview process for front engineers are very intense. And so I would say focus on learning as much as you can. Like, start with a course, complete it all the way through, and then start applying. The experience of like going through the interview process, sometimes getting rejected, note those down. It just makes you stronger until you get to the point where you do an interview for a company. All of the questions that they ask you are probably questions you've already heard of. And so now you're like, I know how to answer this. And then you get the offer.
Yeah. I appreciate the answer to that. If anybody wants to, let's say, connect with you guys after the session, what would be the best way? Or where can they find you on social media?
Oh, well, I'm on Twitter. It's just my name. So it's at Redrick Young. Whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be Twitter, whether it be YouTube, also my podcast, Petri Devs, and also Render ATL, where we're co-organizing to bring Atlanta's first ever React conference in September. And yeah, should I just type it down here too as well?
Yeah, if you guys could throw it in the chat, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that now.
Awesome. I'll give some time for that. While you guys do that, let me see if we have any other questions. Let's see. What sort of personal projects should you build to showcase your technical coding skills? Any personal projects?
What was the question?
Yeah, so what sort of personal projects should you build to showcase your technical coding skills?
Oh, I feel like just something that you're really passionate about and something that's like functional, I guess. Yeah, you want to build something that you're passionate about, because when you talk about it, people want to hear that passion. You want to get them excited too. You want them to feel how you feel. So again, it's like really finding a problem that you want to solve, or I don't know. Like for me, I built like a website full of GIFs. I don't know what y'all say. I say GIFs. I built a website of GIFs, and I was really excited about it. I thought it was cool. But yeah, just something you're happy to build. You want to be happy while you're learning,
Yeah, that's great advice. So definitely take that. Be sure to be able to work on things that you're passionate about, things that you can easily communicate with when you're at an interview. That's definitely going to resonate with the person on the other side. But yeah, without further ado, thank you again for every single person who's here for our panel. Thank you, everybody who asked the questions. You guys are great. And if you want to connect with our panelists here, they've all posted on the chat where you can follow them. So definitely shoot them an invite and follow them on social media. And we look forward to catching you guys at the next Alco event. Till next time. Thank you, everybody.